Aloha, welcome back to my channel. I am cracking up at myself at this moment because I just recorded all of this already, but I didn't have my mic on. Oh, wonderful. What are you gonna do? So maybe I guess that was like my dress rehearsal, so hopefully this time I can actually breeze through and get this done in all one shot too. Alright, so hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about what is, so it's a one of the four agreements, for those of you that are familiar with the work of Don Miguel Ruiz. It's, though just honestly a really awesome skill. I think it's a skill to get a hold of, or get a hang on in life, and that is how to not take things personally. So in the four agreements, I think it's just more a directive, as in don't take things personally, which, you know, that it's a pretty good directive. So I definitely have learned it's great advice, and here is hopefully some takeaways, at least from what I've learned on how to not take things personally. So first, I wanted to share a story, a personal story, and it's basically just a fun way that I've learned to carry this principle with me. And so it really got driven home for me, and actually it was something that was introduced to me before I even read the four agreements. And basically, so I've received professional counseling at various times in my adult life for various reasons. And one of the times I was going to counseling was when I lived in Hawaii, and we were moving from Hawaii back to the mainland. Just going through a lot with my family at that time, and so definitely going through some heavy-duty emotional stuff and some pretty massive life changes. And so the last counselor that I was seeing, he was originally, I think, from the East Coast, Northeast. I don't exactly remember where, but anyhow, I remember him telling me a story once of him and one of his colleagues, and I think they might have already been in the field doing counseling. And so, and I want to say he was in Boston, because I just remember specifically, not him so much, he didn't have the accent, but his friend and colleague did. And they, I guess, were discussing this at a workshop, and it was basically how to not take things personally. And I guess my counselor's colleague, friend, said, oh, you know, it's such a great thing, but when I say it to my clients or patients, I add a play on words, a twist, and I say don't take things poisonally. Well, since the guy was from Boston, I think, so had that like thick Bostonian accent, and please forgive me if I jack this up, because I'm basically getting it like way third hand. So my counselor is trying to basically mimic his colleague, and he's like, oh, so, you know, don't take things poisonally. And it was just, anyways, it was really cute. I super appreciated it, and so I wanted to share that, because I do, yes, it's fun, and it's kind of like it's left this imprint in at least my brain for over a decade, but I think that he also was brilliant in using that play on words, the poisonally specifically, because it is true, when we take things poisonally, it really does become like a poison to us. It becomes very toxic to us. It ends up hurting us. And so it is not a good idea to take things poisonally or personally. And so, but really straight from the teacher's mouth. Well, one of our great teachers of today, Don Miguel Ruiz, he says it pretty clearly in the Four Agreements. We don't take things personally too, because when we do, we're really, in essence, being quite narcissistic. Because what we do when we take things personally is we're basically hijacking somebody else's completely, entirely different perspective on life, on us, on themselves, which they have the right to have all of those perspectives. And we basically overlay how they're seeing something with how we're seeing it. And it's like, nope, you don't get the right to have your opinion because I'm going to perceive it this way and I'm going to take it personally. And so it's a really, again, it's a selfish thing that we actually do, even though our ego would have us believe, oh, but you're being the victim. They threw out a criticism, so they're just criticizing you and da-da-da-da-da. And it's, if we were really solid in ourselves and in our core, people could throw out insults all day long and it wouldn't faze us, because we would realize that was just their opinion. It's that, and it's only that. That's significant to them, but I don't have to take that in and make it a significant thing to me unless I choose to. And on that note, one of the things that I've seen in my own introspection of myself and my behaviors and my ego is that when I've taken things personally, if I really sit still in it, I see that I took it personally because I jumped to an assumption. And so if I sit in the taking, so again, like some of these things, it is hard to do, and trust me, I understand. So if it's hard, say somebody's throwing an actual criticism at you, and it's like, how do I not take things personally when somebody's actually criticizing me? And maybe it's a really rude customer, and you not only are trying to not take it personally, but you're trying to maintain a certain etiquette. And so I get that there's all kinds of scenarios that could just be extra challenging. How to not take family personally. If, family, right, like family can push our buttons like, nobody else. Or, ooh, what about spouses and significant others? Boy, those relationships really know how to push our buttons, right? So it's hard stuff, but if you're willing to keep working at it and to keep trying, if you're noticing yourself taking something personally, best as you can, pause for a moment and see if you can see a thought. More than likely it's going to be a thought somewhere in there, in the you jumping and taking something personally. And there's an assumption overlaid in there. For example, trying to make up a hypothetical on the spot, but I kind of want to go with a really typical, like, archetypal situation of, like, female being upset with her male partner because I don't have to use a hypothetical one. I have one that I just found this morning. So, life is so perfect. So just this morning, I was speaking with my husband. I kind of forget specifically what we were talking about, but I said something, and I usually try to be very mindful of the words that I choose when I'm talking. And so I iterated at the beginning of my statement that I already had awareness of a specific thing, and then kind of said the rest of the sentence. And my husband kind of responded, but it seemed to me as if he missed or just didn't listen to what I said as far as the iteration at the preface of my sentence, kind of leading into the thing. And so I jumped to an assumption, and but I noticed the assumption because I was taking him personally and not listening to me. And so I had actually distracted myself from what I was even talking about, because I was noticing myself taking it personally, because I also noticed simultaneously I jumped to the assumption that he wasn't listening. And so I actually shared all that with him and was like, hey, this just happened, and then I this, and he was like, oh no, that's not what I was saying at all. I don't know, I mean, I heard you say that, but I don't know if you mean this or this. And it was kind of like, oh, yeah. No need to take that personally. So, it's little things like that, but, I realized that for a lot of relationships, the little things can build up and add up to like volcano explosion status. So again, like I've said in another video, like the micro steps into making changes and improvements are usually the things that create the most massive shifts. And so even with stuff like this, like taking things personally, okay, if it's too big of like a oh, the camera stopped recording, so I'm actually not quite sure where I left off yet, or left off when it cut off, but perhaps it's all for the best. Maybe I was starting to get into a tangent that just doesn't even matter. But I think where I am estimating I might have been was, how we can use even the small things as far as taking things personally, and to not, try to step to the big, most massive things, especially if we're not emotionally and mentally ready to handle like the ultimate dragon just yet. I'm not ready to slay my dragon, but I can slay like maybe the ROUS, rodents of unusual size, Princess Bride, anybody? Shout out. Okay. So, to not underestimate the power of, okay, so I notice I am a person that takes a lot of things poisonally, and I want to work on that because I'm seeing how harmful that is to me. But man, there's no way that I can tackle, again, the dragons in my life yet, but I can start with the little battles. And so just pick up all of those little battles. The little things that you notice that you kind of jump to that, like, ooh, I even took a little, like, somebody didn't hold the door for me. Somebody didn't say hello to me when I walked into the door, and I took that personally. So the little things, if you notice yourself taking it personally, just go to, okay, all right, what assumption am I making here? And then noticing the assumption will ultimately help you see an even larger root, which is a belief system. Somewhere in there, we have a belief system that's holding up and being the root of all of the little stuff that keeps flowering and budding up. So you can use the budded flower, i.e. in this metaphor, the taking things poisonally, so this is like the poisonous flower, I guess. Trace that back to the stem. Okay, the stem was, I jumped to an assumption. Okay, the stem comes from roots though, so what's the root? And that's going to be a belief system. And when we can get to the roots of belief systems and start shredding those and debunking those to the point where there's no reason to hold on to the belief system anymore, it'll just start falling away. And then pretty soon you'll notice that those little things, even criticisms that used to just rub you raw or irritate you or send you into a quick emotional response, they're no longer having the same effect on you. You know, sometimes it can still be old and tiring to hear, you know, certain things, especially criticisms without any solutions offered with the criticism. That can get old. But, you know, you just eventually start seeing that you no longer have the same responsive reaction, that you're more reacting out of a conscious awareness and a choosing of how you want to react to it and not an unconscious reaction. So I hope all this makes sense. Hopefully the camera cut me off didn't mess with my flow too much. And boy, maybe there was something I said in the other video that just wasn't relevant, and so that's why all this happened. Who knows? Or just a nice mistake to learn from. Make sure the microphone is on. So again, I hope this made sense, and I also hope that it was helpful to somebody, anybody out there that just really does struggle with this and is really wanting and desiring to move beyond taking things poisonally. Because again, I wholeheartedly just love that little play on words. When we take things personally, I do think it does poison us. So that's it for today, and thank you so much for joining me, and we'll catch you next week. Aloha.